Chapter 6. Over the Water to Hy-Breasail. In the morning Calatin led Coram from the forest, and they stood beside the sea. Warm sun shone upon white beaches and blue water, yet behind them still the forest lay crushed by snow. Coram was not riding his horse. He was reluctant to mount the brave beast until its wounds had healed, but he had gathered his gear, including his arrows and his lances, and laid it upon his mount's back, where the load would not irritate the wounds it had sustained in the previous night's fight. Coram's own body was bruised and aching, but he forgot his discomfort as soon as he recognized the shore. "So," said Coram, "it was merely a mile or two from the coast when those beasts attacked." He smiled ironically. "And there is Moidal's mount." He pointed along the shore to where the hill could be seen, rising from a deeper sea than when Coram had last visited it, but unmistakably the place where Rowlena's castle had stood, guarding the margravate of Luamanish. Moidal's mount remains. "I do not know the name you speak," said Calatin, stroking his beard and arranging his finery as if about to receive a distinguished visitor. "But my house is built upon that tor. It is where I have always lived." Coram accepted this and began to walk on towards the mount. "I have lived there too," he said, "and I was happy." Calatin, with long strides, caught up with him. "You lived there, she? I know nothing of that." "No, it was before Luamanish was drowned," Coram explained, "before this cycle of history began. Mortals and gods come and go, but nature remains." "It is all relative," Calatin said. Coram thought his tone a little peevish, as if he resented hearing this truism. Nearing the place, Coram saw that once the old causeway had been replaced by a bridge, but now the bridge was in ruins, deliberately destroyed it seems. He commented on this to Calatin. The wizard nodded. "I destroyed the bridge. The Foy-Muir and the things of the Foy-Muir are, like the She, reluctant to cross Western water." "Well, why Western water?" "I have no understanding of their customs." "Have you any fear of wading through the shallows to the island, Sir She?" "Oh, none," said Coram. "I have made the same journey many times. Do not draw too many conclusions from that wizard, for I am not of the She race, though you seem to insist otherwise." "You spoke of Vadhag, and that is an old name for the She." Perhaps legend has confused the two races." "Well, you have the She look nonetheless," Calatin said flatly. "The tide is retreating, and soon it will be possible to cross. We shall make our way along what remains of the bridge and enter the water from there." Coram continued to lead his horse, following Calatin as he set foot on the stone bridge and walked as far as he could until he reached crude steps which led down into the sea. "It's shallow enough," the wizard announced. Coram looked at the green mount. There it was lush spring. He looked behind him, and there it was cruel winter. How could nature be controlled so? He had difficulty with the horse. Its hooves threatened to slip on the wet rocks, but eventually both man and horse were shoulder deep in the water and feeling with their feet for the remains of the old causeway below. Through the clear sea, Coram could just make out the worn cobblestones that might have been the same ones he had stepped on 1,000 or more years past. He remembered his first coming to Moidal's Mount. He remembered the hatred he had had then of all Mabden. And he had been betrayed by Mabden many times. The wizard Calatin's cloak floated out behind him on the surface of the water as the tall old man led the way. Slowly they began to emerge from the sea until they were 2/3 of the way across, and the water was now only up to their shins. The horse snorted with pleasure. Evidently its soaking had soothed its wounds. shook its mane and dilated its nostrils. Perhaps the sight of good green grass on the slopes of the tor also improved its spirits. Now there was no trace at all of Ralena's castle. Instead, a villa had been built near the top. A villa 2 stories high, made of white stone that sparkled in the sunshine. Its roof was of grey slate. A pleasant house, thought Coram, not a typical one for a man who dabbled in the occult arts. He recalled his last sight of the old castle, burned by Glandith in revenge. Was this why he felt so suspicious of this Mabden, Calatin? Was there something of the Earl of Cray about him? Something in his eyes, the bearing, or perhaps the voice? It was foolish to make comparisons. Calatin did not have an agreeable manner, it was true, but it was possible that his motives were kindly. He had saved Coram's life after all. It would not be fair to judge the wizard on his outward and seemingly very cynical comportment. Now they began to climb the winding track to the top of the mount. Coram smelled the spring, the flowers, rhododendrons, the grass and the budding trees. Sweet-scented moss covered the old rocks of the hill. Birds nested in the larches and the alders, and flew among the new bright leaves. Coram had another reason now to be grateful to Calatin, for he had become profoundly weary of the deadness of the landscape. And then they came to the house itself, Calatin showing Coram where he could stable his horse, and then flinging open a door wide so that Coram could go first into the place. The ground floor consisted mainly of one large room whose wide windows were filled with glass and looked from one side of the open sea, and from the other to the white and desolate land. Coram could observe how the clouds formed over the land, but not over the sea. The clouds seemed to remain in one place, as if forbidden to cross an invisible barrier. Coram had observed little glass in any other part of this Mabden world. Calatin had found benefits, it appeared, in his studying of ancient lore. The roofs of the house were high and supported by stone beams, and the rooms of the house, as Calatin showed it to him, were filled with scrolls, books, tablets, and experimental apparatus. Truly a wizard's lair. Yet there was nothing sinister to Coram in Calatin's possessions, or indeed his obsessions. The man called himself a wizard, but Coram would have called him a philosopher, someone who enjoyed exploring and discovering the secrets of nature. Here, Calatin told him, I have almost everything saved from Luamanesh's libraries before that golden civilization sank beneath the waves. Many mocked me and told me that I filled my head with nonsense, that my books were only the work of madmen who had preceded me, and that they contained no more truth than my own work contained. They said that the histories were mere legends and the grimoires were fantasies, fiction, that all the talk of gods and demons and such was merely poetic, or metaphorical. But I believed otherwise, and I was proved correct. Calatin smiled coldly. Their deaths proved me right. The smile changed. Though I did not have very much satisfaction in knowing that all who might have apologized to me are now slain by the hounds of Keranos, or frozen by the Foy-Moor. You have no pity for them, have you, wizard? Coram said, seating himself upon a stool and staring through the window out to sea. Pity? No, it's not in my character to know pity, or guilt, or any of those other emotions which other mortals care so much for. You do not feel guilty that you sent your 27 sons and your grandson upon a fruitless series of quests. Oh, they were not entirely fruitless. There is little more I seek now. I meant that you must surely feel some remorse for the fact that they all died. "Oh, I do not know that all of them died. Some simply did not return. But yes, most did die. It is a shame, I suppose. I would rather that they lived. But my interest is more in abstractions, pure knowledge, than the usual considerations which hold so many mortals in chains." Coram did not pursue the subject. Kellerton moved about the big room, complaining of his wet clothes, but making no effort to change them. They had dried before he next spoke to Coram. "You go to Hy-Breasail, you said." "Aye. Do you know where the island lies?" "If the island exists, yes. But all mortals who go close to the island, so it is said, are immediately put under a glamour. They see nothing, save perhaps a reef or cliffs impossible to scale. Only the Sidhe see Hy-Breasail as the island really looks. That, at least, is what I have read. None of my sons returned from Hy-Breasail. They sought it and perished, losing several good boats into the bargain. Goffinon rules there, you see, and will have naught to do with mortals or Foimure. Some say he is the last of the Sidhe." Kellerton looked suddenly at Coram in suspicion and drew back slightly. "You are not—" "I am Coram," Coram said. "I told you that. No, I am not Goffinon, but Goffinon, if he exists, is the one I seek." "Goffinon? He is powerful." Kellerton was frowning. "But perhaps it is true, and you are the only one who can find him." "Perhaps we could make a bargain, Prince Coram." "Well, if it is to our mutual benefit, aye." Kellerton became pensive, fingering his beard and muttering to himself. "The only servants of the Foimure who do not fear the island and are not subject to its enchantments are the hounds of Keranos. Keranos himself even fears Hy-Breasail, but not his hounds. Therefore you would be in danger, even there, of the dogs." He looked up and looked hard at Coram. "You might reach the island, but you probably would not live to find Goffinon, if he exists." Aye, if he exists. I thought I guessed your quest when you spoke of the spear. That is Bryanak, I take it." "Bryanak is its name. One of the treasures of Caer Lud, was it not? I believe that is common knowledge amongst your folk." "And why do you seek it?" "Well, it will be useful to me against the Foimure. I can say no more." Kellerton nodded. "No, there is no more that needs said. I will help you, Prince Coram. A boat to go to Hy-Breasail? I have a boat you may borrow. And protection against the hounds of Keranos? You may borrow my horn." "And what must I do in return?" "You must pledge to me that you will bring me back something from Hy-Breasail. Something very valuable to me. Something which you can only get from the she-smith Goffinon. A jewel? A charm? No, much more." Kellerton fumbled among his papers and his equipment until he found a little bag of smooth, soft leather. "This is watertight," he said. "You must use this." "What do you want, magic water from a well?" "No," said Kellerton urgently, quietly. "You must bring me some of the spittle belonging to the she-smith Goffinon. In this. Take it." He reached inside his robes and drew out the beautiful horn he had used to drive away the hounds of Keranos. "And take this. Blow it 3 times to drive them off. Blow it 6 times to set them upon an enemy." Coram fingered the ornate horn. "It must be a powerful thing indeed," he murmured, "if it can match that of Keranos." "It was once a she-horn," Kellerton told him. An hour later, Kellerton had taken him to the far side of the mount, where a little natural harbour still was. And in the harbour was a small sailing boat. Kellerton gave Coram a chart and a lodestone. Coram carried the horn at his belt now, and his own weapons were upon his back. Said the wizard Calatin, fingering his own noble skull with trembling fingers. Perhaps at last I may have my ambition fulfilled. Do not fail, Prince Coram. For my sake, do not fail. And for the sake of the people of Caer Marlod, for all the people who have so far not been slain by the Foy Muir, for the sake of a world in perpetual winter that may never see the spring again, I shall try not to fail, wizard. And then the sea wind had caught the sail and the boat sped out over the sparkling water, heading west to where Luaminesh and her beautiful cities had once been. And Coram fancied for a moment that he would find Luaminesh, just as he had seen it last, and that all the rest, all the events of the past weeks would be a dream. Moidal's Mount and the mainland, they were soon far behind, out of sight, and flat water lay all around him. If Luaminesh had survived, he would have seen it by this time, but lovely Luaminesh was not there. So the stories of her sinking beneath the waves were true. And would the stories be true of Hy-Breasail? Was it really all that was left of that land? And would he be subject to the same illusions suffered by previous voyagers? He studied his charts. Soon he would know the answers. In another hour or so he would sight Hy-Breasail.